Welcome back to the poker vlog. This is episode number 82, and for this one, I head out to Southern California. I played Ocean's 11, played some 2-5 out there. I was doing some wine tasting with my girlfriend in the area, and got to fit in a session. So hope you guys enjoy it. Be sure to stick around till the end because I've got some meetup game announcements that I'm excited to share with you. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Despite living in San Diego for 4 years in college and then losing all my money while living in LA during my first stint as a professional, I've never played Ocean's 11. Driven by this place dozens of times, but never made the effort to check it out. It's my first time here, and I'm pumped up. I get called for the 2-5 game. It's an $800 max buy-in. That's how much I get before taking my seat. Let's do this. First interesting hand, I pick up Ace-Jack of spades in the big blind, under the gun limps in, under the gun +2 calls, small blind calls. Ace-Jack offsuit, I would check, but since I'm suited, I raise it up to punish the limpers. I make it 40. Under the gun folds, under the gun +2 calls, the small blind folds, we're heads up, the flop comes Queen 3-3 with 2 clubs and 1 spade. We've got some backdoor draws and ace high, which has some value. I check, under the gun +2, checks back. The turn is the 10 of clubs, I check, under the gun +2, bets 25. This amount seems reasonable to call for with a gut shot straight draw and an over. I do call, the river is a blank, it's the 4 of spades. I check, the opponent bets 100. Trying to think about what the player's saying he has here after over limping, then calling 40 pre-flop, checking back flop, betting 25 on the turn, then firing 100 here on the river. When I get curious, I just want to throw chips in the middle, but I think better of it, and I lay it down. The opponent shows pocket queens, took an odd line pre-flop, flopped a boat. Must be nice.
Wow. That was a pretty good flop.
Yeah. I mean, unless you had quad threes, then it would be a horrible flop. So.
Yeah.
Next, it's my turn for pocket queens. I pick them up in the hijack. Under the gun +2 opens a 15. I 3-bet to 50. Unfortunately, no action. Everybody folds. It doesn't quite seem fair. Here I've got ace-10 suited under the gun +2. I open to 15. The hijack calls, the cutoff comes along, the small blind puts in 15, and the big blind also calls. 5 of us see the flop. Bingo, bango, bongo. The dealer's my friend and puts out 2 more pointy cards. We've got trips and a multi-way pot. It's check to me, I bet 40. Folds to the big blind, he makes the call. There's some chance he's got an ace with a better kicker, but more often than not, he'll have either an ace with a worse kicker or a flush draw. The turn is an 8, the player checks. I want to charge him right now. If I do in fact have him beat, I bet 100. The big blind calls quickly, and I'm somewhat concerned. The river is a 6, the big blind checks. I've got a decision. If I bet, I won't get called by any missed flush draws, and I'm losing to a lot of other hands containing aces now. I play conservatively and check it back. It's a good thing I do because the big blind turns over ace-jack for the win. He has me out kicked. Turns out the dealer doesn't like me quite as much as I thought. I add on for 300, then I pick up king-queen offsuit on the button. The hijack opens at 15. The cutoff calls. This looks like a decent spot to squeeze. I 3-bet, making it 65. Both players call. 3 of us go to the flop. Dealer puts out 10-8-3 with 2 diamonds. The opponent's check to me. I showed strength pre-flop. I'm going to continue with that story by betting 110 in an attempt to get some ace highs and some smaller pocket pairs that didn't make a set to fold. The hijack lets his hand go. I like him a lot. The cutoff isn't a believer yet, and rightfully so. He makes the call. I don't like this guy nearly as much. The turn is a 6. The cutoff checks. I'm not a quitter. I fire again for 240. Not sure how much merit there is to firing a second bullet here. Perhaps I can get some flush draws to fold. I'm just hoping that I'm not up against a set. Player lets his hand go quickly and says that he folded top pair. I'm glad to get that one through. I could have been stuck piles if it had gone the other way, but as it is, I'm only down 50. In this one, we're dealt 8-6 suited on the button. 3 players limp in. I call in hopes of seeing a cheap flop. The small blind folds, the big blind checks. 5 of us are in the mix. The dealer puts out ace-jack 7 with 2 diamonds. We've got a flush draw with a backdoor straight draw to go along with it. Under the gun +1 bets 25. I call. The other opponents fold. It's heads up. The turn is a 4. Under the gun +1 checks. We pick up a gutter and want to see if we can take this one down with a bet. I make it 65. Under the gun +1 calls. Seems like he checked the turn for pot control purposes. The river is the deuce of spades. We brick everything. Under the gun +1 checks. Doesn't look like the type of guy that folds very often. I give up and check back. He turns over ace-6 offsuit and wins it. Here we're dealt pocket 4s under the gun +1. Pocket pairs below 7 should generally be folds from under the gun +1, but I'm in a relatively tight game. No one's been 3-betting that much, and part of me illogically feels like I'm due to hit something big as well. For those kind of bad reasons, I open to 15. The hijack makes it 50, folds back to me. This guy hasn't 3-bet at all this session. I imagine he has a big hand here. I call for 35 more in hopes of flopping a set. We're heads up, the dealer puts out 10-6-3. Despite not flopping a set, this is a much better flop for our pre-flop calling range than it is for our opponent's 3-bet range. He's going to have an overpair at best. At least sometimes he's only going to have ace high. I, on the other hand, could have all the sets. I check, the hijack bets 60. Not ready to give up on this yet. Any 4 will give me the best hand, any 7, 5, or deuce will give me a straight draw to go along with my pair. I call with plans to bluff at some point if I pick up additional equity. The turn is the 7 of hearts. I can now hit a 5 for the straight. My first thought is to go for the check raise. My read on the opponent is that he's a tight player that plays somewhat scared though. So I'm concerned that if I check, he'll check back even with an overpair. And then if I bet river at that point, he'll call no matter what. So I'd be lighting money on fire with that line. Instead, I lead out for 150. Taking similar lines with sets, and I've seen others do it also. If I get called, I'll bomb almost all rivers. There are so many good ones that would put my opponent in a rough spot. The bad rivers for him mainly include any 10, 9, 8, 5, or 4. I know you've seen me bluff in this video a few times already, but I didn't have to table any of those, so my image is actually pretty good. After some deliberation, my opponent folds face up.
Kings? Folding kings? Jesus.
I don't always show in this situation, but since he showed me, I imagine he wanted to know what I had. Also, I haven't made a real hand all day. Eventually I might, and I figured it might loosen things up, help me get paid down the line in an otherwise tight game if I did show. I make another high variance play, and I'm lucky that it works out. In the last hand of the session, I pick up 8-6 suited on the button. Under the gun +2 opens a 20. I 3-bet to 65. The player calls. We're heads up. The flop comes ace king jack with 2 clubs. The player checks. It's a great flop for my 3-betting range. I can have all kinds of sets and 2-pair hands, so I go with that story. I bet 60. The opponent snap folds. Nothing came easy for me today, but at least we get one last bluff through before booking a small loss. Interesting session. Lost 80 bucks. Didn't really pick up any big hands. It was kind of a frustrating session. Nothing really happened that was too exciting for me. Didn't even get to value bet anything. The only big hand that I made was when I flopped the trip aces, and I got out kicked that hand. So luckily my bluffs went through. I could have lost a lot more money if some of those bluffs didn't go through. Not sure how I feel about them, but you know, luckily they worked. That's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons because it helps out the channel a ton. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know in the comment section. I'm happy to get back to you. I think this episode is pretty interesting for a few reasons. The biggest one is that I bluffed a lot, and I did that for, well, because I didn't really have very many good sessions leading up to this one. This is my 4th session of 2019. I lost like $1,000 in 2 of them leading up to it, so I think I was stuck $1,700 going into it. Just kind of tired of losing, so I forced some things. Luckily, they worked out for the best for the most part, and I kind of lost the minimum for this session. I also thought that the tables were playing like pretty tight and passive, so I felt like I could get away with a few things that maybe I wouldn't ordinarily be able to get away with. But anyway, I got a few announcements to make. The first one is that I'm going to be going to Spain from February 15th through the 22nd. I'm super excited about that. If you guys have ever been and have some suggestions for places I should see or restaurants I should eat at, and definitely casinos I should play at, then please let me know in the comment section because I'm looking for things to do. Also, Andrew and I are going back to Graton. We're doing a meetup game there February 23rd at 2 p.m. It's a Saturday. We'll be playing 3-5 no limit. Hopefully you guys have seen some of the videos Andrew and I have put out recently. about Graton. It's a beautiful place, and it's right next to my hometown of Santa Rosa, California. So if you guys are in the area, come hang out, play poker, and celebrate my 31st birthday at that meetup game. No one really cares when you turn 31, but you guys are invited. Also, first ever East Coast meetup game. Andrew and I are going to Maryland Live March 6th. Cards will be in the air at 6:30 p.m. and we'll be playing 3-5 out there. So we're very pumped up about that one too. If you guys are on the East Coast, then please show your support. Come out, and you know, if we get a lot of people, maybe Maryland Live will have us back, and maybe a few other states will see what we're capable of and invite us to play in card rooms, particularly like in the Northeast and Florida. Those would be some great spots to go. Hope you guys are all doing well. Good luck at the tables, and I'll see you next time.